welcome back to the second step to our first episode in the Bread Making Simplified series. Now, it is pretty warm where I'm at, and this is the dough that I have now. I did let it rest for a full 18 hours. So right now, after this initial rest and rise, you just want to sprinkle your surface with some flour because it is still pretty sticky. And just lightly dust. We're going to let it rest for 15 more minutes and then come back to the bread and go ahead and get it into its position for its final 2-hour rise, and then we'll bake. So this is what it looks like. I'm gonna get my hands full of flour, and I'm just gonna start pulling this out of the bowl. And you're gonna find that this is really sticky and it's pretty wet, and check out my bowl. It still has quite a bit in there. You can go ahead and get some flour on your hands and pull this out to not waste it, but don't worry, you don't need to. And the key is just to keep your hands really floured up for this. So you want to sprinkle the top with a little flour. Don't be too shy. And what we want to do is press it out just a little and then fold this over on itself just once or twice. And just keep it floured so your hands don't stick. Because this bread is really a very rustic looking and tasting bread, so it's going to have a really thick, crunchy crust and that really airy, soft texture inside. Having extra flour on the dough doesn't hurt it at all. So make sure that you're still really floured up well underneath, so when it sits, it doesn't stick, and just let it sit. And I'm gonna take that plastic wrap I used before and just cover it really lightly. Gosh. There we go. Whew. And then we'll come back in 15 minutes. One and a half hours from now, you want to heat your oven to 450. And you want it to, you ideally want to give it at least 30 minutes to get super, super hot. What happens is you're going to be placing the dough into a hot pan and then covering it. So if you don't have a lid, that's okay. You remember me mentioning I still use foil to cover the pan, and that works perfectly fine. You want to flour your hands really well for this, but at this point, try not to overdo it on the flour. Just use as much as you need. Now I'm going to take the dough and I kind of just go around the edges and peel it back, move some flour back underneath here, just to make sure it's all loose from the table, and it is. And then I'm just going to take the edges and just start kind of pulling them gently up into a ball like this. You can just kind of almost pinch it together. That's fine too. And my hands are a little sticky. It's fine. They're going to be a little sticky. Don't worry. And then I'm going to take the dough and just hold it in my well-floured hand for a moment. And you pull your paper towel. You can also use another cotton towel for this. I just don't like to deal with too floury towels, so this works just fine for me. And I just am working this into a ball. And I put the seam side down, and we're gonna let this rise. So, as you see, ball, I'm gonna cover it with a little more flour and just brush that around with my hand and cover this with my drenched floury towel. This dough is going to ideally rise to twice its size within the 2 hours, so we will check back really soon. All right, everybody, so it has been 2 hours. It's actually been only about 2 hours and 10 minutes for me. And let's take a look at our dough. It is definitely bigger and fluffier, and oh yes, you'll feel this. Just gently put your hands on your dough. This helps you to learn what dough should feel like when it's ready to go. So I have my scorching hot pan ready here. What I'm going to do is show you how to flip it into the pan. To make this easy, part of the reason we use this paper towel or a towel with flour is that you're going to put your hand underneath and lift it up and invert it into the hot pan. So the bottom or the seam side will be up. And it may look a little crazy and poor, you might even think, but that's what makes this bread look so rustic, and it kind of figures itself out as you cook it. That is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna throw it in seam side up. So I'm just gonna get ready here, get these things out of the way. I'm gonna grab my pot. This has been in the 450-degree oven, so it is definitely warm. I'm gonna lift this up and I'm just going to throw it in, just like that. And you can kind of shake it out. As you can see, I didn't get it right into the middle of the pan, but it'll kind of figure itself out in the oven. So I'm gonna go throw this in, 450 degrees, preheated, minimum 30 minutes. We're gonna leave it in for 30 with a foil cover over it. And then I'm gonna take the foil cover off and leave it in for 15 more minutes. Okay guys, here we go. So we're almost at the very end of our no-knead bread, our first loaf. And I hope you've had a good time and learned a few things. Hope things went really smoothly for you. Gosh, within an hour, we're gonna have a beautiful rustic loaf of bread. What you can do is use the hashtag breadmakingsimplified, and I'll find you on Instagram, or we have our Clark H&P Facebook. You can post pictures there. I would love to see those. You guys, this bread looks so good. Look how beautiful and golden it is and how rustic it is. Next week, we're gonna go into our second episode of Bread Making Simplified with some variations, and you're gonna have some beautiful, fresh, fluffy white loaves to be eating. So stay tuned. I'll see you next week. Enjoy.